Hi, this is Dr. Bitla Venu coming in front of you with a new topic called direct numerical control missions. Regarding this direct numerical control missions, in the last session we are discussed in brief, but in today's class we will discuss direct numerical control missions in detail. Uh, Let me move further. So in the last session, we have seen the CNC missions. Then we are classified different types of CNC machining centers. Then we are discussed the basic components of CNC systems. Later we are discussed the functions of each components of CNC system. Uh, then we are discussed the features of CNC. Then we are discussed the advantages, disadvantages, applications. Finally, we have seen the glimpse of DNC system. But now, today's class, we will discuss direct numerical control in detail. We will move forward to see the types of DNC missions. We will see the block diagram of DNC mission. Then we will see the functions, advantages, disadvantages we will see in this session. This is actually the objective of the session. We will see the introduction to the DNC. We will discuss the introduction and working and the basic components of the DNC system, how the components are connected in DNC, and what are the elements involved in DNC, what are the devices in the DNC. We will see. Then we will move forward to see the functions of the DNC. We will also see the different types of DNC systems in which we will see, I'm going to cover in DNC types. There are two types basically, with satellite and without satellite. We will discuss with the diagrams. Then we discuss the advantages of DNC. Then we will try to compare NC, CNC and DNC machining tools. Then when it comes to the introduction, DNC is one type of manufacturing system in which the number of CNC machine tools are connected to a single mainframe computer, or the single computer, which you can call it as a host computer or a mainframe computer, which is having a more memory, means a huge amount of memory to store more number of programs. It is one type of manufacturing system in which we are going to use single computer is going to operate number of machines. In turn, we can call that computer as a host or a mainframe computer. Whereas in the case of CNC, as we have seen that if you have 10 number of NC missions, each mission is having dedicated computer. So all the programs, part programs are stored in that computer, and the NC mission is going to access the programs from that computer itself. The basic difference between CNC and DNC is that DNC is having only one computer, as I said just now, to operate number of missions. Whereas in the case of CNC missions, every mission is having a dedicated computer to access the part programs or to get the instructions. According to those instructions, in turn we can call that as a part program instructions. The machine is going to work. So that is the basic difference between DNC and CNC. So a number of machines are connected directly to a central computer, which is having a huge memory. That is what the concept. Then the part programs can be downloaded directly from the central computer, in which we are going to emit a tape reader or a punched card. That means in the case of NC, we are inserting a punched card or a tape reader. From that, NC machine is going to read the program, and according to the program on the NC machine, a tape or a punched card, the machine is going to perform the operations. That means in this case, the machines are going to access, the number of machines are going to access the programs directly from the computer, from the central computer, where all the programs are fed. Then this direct numerical control machine is having basic requirements. It must have a a central computer with huge memory, and it must be connected, and all the as I said just now, in the case of DNC machining system, number of NC machines are connected together with a mainframe computer or a host computer with the cables or with the network. That means all the machines as well as the central computer must be in a network, so that it also requires the telecommunication network, and it also requires to perform work, it also requires the NC machine tool. I list out all these once again. It must require mainframe or a central computer to store all the programs at one location, from which the machine tools are going to access the programs to perform the work, to perform the actual work. And that central computer or a mainframe computer must be able to store more number of programs. To store more number of programs, that must have a bulk memory. So the hard disk memory must be very high to store more number of programs. That is what I would like to say. Then that central computer must be connected to the NC machine tools via the telecommunication network. That means this DNC must have the network. That means the number of machines that we are connecting to the central computer must be in a network. We have seen the different types of network in our previous sessions. We have different types of networks like the LAN, WAN, MAN, then wireless network. Anyhow, all the machine tools must be in network to access the programs from the central computer. So that in this case, definitely we need to keep all the systems and machines in a single network to access somewhere else. The machine or the computer which is located somewhere else, which may be far away from the machines. Because if everything is in a network, you can access the programs, you can access the data of the central computer from the network. It is obvious that to perform actual work, we require NC machine tool also. So let me move forward to discuss the all these along with the diagram. As you can see, so it must have a host computer or a mainframe computer. As you can see here, the memory of this host computer must be high to store more number of programs. That means this host computer must have the bulk memory. So the hard disk of this host computer must be high to store more number of programs. In turn, those programs are going to be accessed by the number of machine tools, which are connected parallelly to this host computer. Of course, in between that, we have one more device that you can also see in this figure. Those are machine tools, machine control units. So according to this, this machine control tool is having the, all the drives and all the mechanisms to control the machine. Initially, this machine control unit is going to receive the program. In turn, this machine control unit is going to convert the program into the machine readable form. So that means this machine, NC machine, is going to act according to the instructions of the machine control unit. In turn, you can call it as MCU. In this figure, you can see there are three NC machines, and these three NC machines are connected to the three machine control units. However, the host computer is one. Machine controller units must be different. This is what one type. Every machine tool must have the machine control unit, because all the machines are not going to perform same work and same operation. These machines are going to operate, and these machines are going to work different operations or perform different operations according to the signals or according to the instructions of the program received by the machine control unit. As you can see, all these are in a network. All these are all we need to keep this in a network to access the host computer programs by the NC machine tools via machine control unit. This is what the block diagram of the direct numerical control system, basic principle of the direct numerical control system. Once again, I repeat that it have only a bulk memory computer. In turn, you can call it as a host computer or a mainframe computer. So this is going to use as a central computer or a main memory to store all the programs. So exactly from this place, all the machines are going to access the programs directly, and all the machines are going to operate different operations and different products to produce. Then as the DNC computer downloads the program directly from the CNC computer memory, of course there is some problem when you connect a single computer, to the more number of programs. There may be redundancy in of data between host computer and the NC machine tools. To reduce the redundancy of data, we can combine DNC and CNC. So combining DNC and CNC means we are connecting a small memory or a satellite computer or a mini computer to every NC machine tool, so that the function of this mini computer is to receive the program. It downloads the program from the main computer. In this case, it is a host computer, and it stores that program in the buffer memory, of the mini computer or a satellite computer in this case. From there, the NC machine tool is going to access the program from the buffer itself. So in that way, you can reduce the redundancy of the data between the host computer and the number of machines which are connected parallel to the host computer. So combining DNC and NC is one way to eliminate the use of program as input medium for NC machine tools. Okay, then DNC system is expensive and is preferably used in large size organizations, not in the small size organization. So it is expensive, so that it is preferred to use in large size organizations. And this reduces when you connect the CNC, DNC, combining, when you combine CNC and DNC, which eliminates the use of input medium for the NC machines, which means instead of storing the programs by using input medium such as CD, DVD, or USB flash drive, so you are storing programs somewhere else, and you are accessing a mini computer is going to access the programs from the host computer, which keeps in a buffer, and from where the machine tool is going to access the program. In that way, you can combine DNC and CNC. We can avoid the input mediums for CNC machines, because you have a huge amount of data, huge memory for the DNC, where all the programs will be stored. Instantaneously, you are not going to insert a USB drive or CD drive to load the programs in the computer. So we have a big memory computer, or a huge memory computers, so that all the programs are stored at one location from where the individual computer is going to access the data, and which keeps in the buffer, and from where the NC machine tool is going to access. So combining CNC and DNC is one way to eliminate the use of input mediums, which may tend to errors, or which may tend to virus attacks, or we have some security problems. To avoid the security problems, so the moment if you use the input mediums like the USB flash drives, so sometimes security problem may takes place. To avoid that security problem, CNC and DNC must be connected or combined together to eliminate the security problems. Then it also reduces the amount of communication required between central computer and each machine tool. So on the moment the NC machine tool is doing work or performing the work, every time the machine tool needs to get the data from the host computer where all the programs are stored. So it gives us the redundancy of the data. So this is also one drawback, as I said just now. So to avoid that, so all the machine tools must have some mini computer to get the program. Initially, this mini computer is going to get the program from the central computer and stores in a buffer from where the machine tool is going to access. So in that way, you can reduce the communication between the host computer and the machine. So now let us discuss the different types of DNC system, and basically there are two types of DNC systems. One is DNC system without satellite computer, and the other one is DNC system with satellite computer. As I said just now, so the basic principle is that you have a central computer, and from where all the machines are connected from the telecommunication lines to access the program from the central computer. This is actually the basic principle of the DNC system. But whereas, as I said just now, there are a lot of problems when you connect the number of machines directly to the central computer. To every time the machine is going to get the data, getting the data from the central computer, so the network will be in busy. So to avoid that problem, so a mini computer or a satellite mini computer is introduced between the main computer and the NC machine tools. So whenever you introduce a satellite mini computer in between central computer and the NC machine tools, this mini computer is going to get the data from the get the the required program from the central computer. That means the satellite mini computer is going to download the required program from the central computer. In turn, that program will be kept in the memory buffer. So from this memory buffer, the machine tools are going to access the program, instructions from the program or program of instructions. So in that way, you can reduce the communication between the machine tools as well as the central computer. So this is what the advantage of combining the CNC and DNC. So let me move further to discuss the functions of the DNC. So there are here you can see the functions. The first one is NC without punch tape. That means in this case, in the case of CNC as well as DNC also, we are not going to use the punch tape. So there are a lot of disadvantages when you use a punch tape. As I said in the last class, when you use a punch tape, because it is in the paper form or hard copy form, when we go on use that punch card number of times, so the probability or the probability of damage is more. So to avoid that, definitely a paper will spoil when we go on repeatedly use that document. It is in the form of paper or it is the part of card. So when we go on use that card repeatedly, or when we go on use the tape repeatedly, so definitely the tape as well as card tends to spoil. So that punch tape or that card needs to be prepared regularly. So to avoid that problem, so DNC in the case of CNC and DNC is going to avoid punch tape or a punched card. So the main function of this DNC is to use the punched card. I mean, we are not going to use, I mean, the function of DNC is not at all going to use the punched card or a punched tape. The other function is that part program storage. That means this DNC must have more memory to store more number of programs. That means it must have bulk memory to store the programs. Then it must be able to collect the data, and it must be able to process, and finally it must be able to generate the reports according to the necessity, which may be useful to the shop floor, which may be useful to the inventory, which may be useful to the management side. So this DNC must have capability to generate generate reports which are necessary for the management perspective also. Then it must be able to communicate. That means this DNC must have function to communicate with the machine tool. That means there must be communication between central computer and machine tool, then central computer and NC programmer terminal, then central computer and bulk memory which stores the number of programs. So these are the main functions of DNC. One is this must be able to operate without punch tape. The other one is it must have more storage to store more number of programs. It must be able to generate the reports by collecting the data and as well as processing the data. Then it must be able to communicate between the machine tool, NC part programmer terminal, and bulk memory where all the programs are stored. These are the main functions of DNC. Now let us see one by one in detail and see without punchy tape. As I said just now, if the program is in the form of punchy tape or a punched card, due to the repetitive usage, the punched card or tape is going to spoil. So in turn, we need to prepare the new punched card or a new tape to do or to perform the work. So the first function is going to eliminate the punched card and as well as the tape reader, because which are not reliable to use. I mean, due to its repetitiveness, those are going to spoil. So this is the major function. And the second function is that the programs must be made available uh, for downloading to the NC machine tool. Of course, this must be able to download the programs from the host computer to the mini computer or the satellite computer placed between the host computer as well as the machine tool. It must be able to download the program. It must be able to give us some provision to download the programs. That is also one function. And it must have a provision. It must allow us, the DNC must allow us to enter the new programs, and it must be able to delete, and as well as we must be able to edit the existing programs. So this feature is also required for the DNC because already we have memory there. There all the programs are huge memory there where all the programs are stored, and at that location we must be able to load the new programs, and we must be able to edit and as well as delete the existing. So then let me move forward. Then let me move forward to discuss the second functionality, that is NC part programming storage. So as I said just now, it must have provision to delete and edit the existing program as well as to enter or to write the new program in the computer itself. That is also we require. Then it must accomplish the post processing function. Of course, after completing the work, it must be able to perform or it must be able to generate the reports. So that is what the one feature required, one function required for DNC. Must be structured to perform certain data processing. As I said just now, it must be able to process the data, and it must be able to generate the reports according to the downstream applications, as per the downstream applications. It must be able to display the program. It must be able to manipulate the data as per the requirement. That is what the one of the function of the DNC. DNC program storage subsystem should have active storage and as well as the secondary storage. So active storage means, as I said, it is having a huge memory computer in which already it is having a memory. So where all the programs are stored, bulk memory. So that is called active storage. And the secondary storage means, I mean, you have some soft copy of program somewhere you are written, and those programs must be able to store those programs, must be able to copy those programs in the central computer. That means this DNC also must be having the secondary memory also. This is what the main function of the DNC. Then let me move forward. Then the other function of the DNC is it should be able to collect the data, process, and it must be able to generate the report, as I said just now. And uh, The data includes, the collected data includes maybe the count of the objects, maybe the tool usage data, what type of tool we are used, and how many number of operations are performed, and it may be the tool movements diagram, or it may be the time of the machine utilization, or any other data it should be able to provide us. So this type of data is extremely useful for the management of the plant. It may be shop floor data, it may be inventory data. So all those data must be collected by the DNC system. So this DNC must have, every DNC must have this feature uh, to fulfill or to run the plant in a smooth way. DNC computer must process this data to generate the report for the management, as I said just now. So next, when you move to the fourth function, that is communications. So communication among the various subsystem is must for any of the DNC. As I said, it must be able to communicate between the machine tool, communicate with the program, NC part program. It must be able to communicate with the bulk memory, so where all the programs are stored. So this is what we require. Communication is also one of the requirement. Now, when it comes to the advantages of DNC, uh, as we have seen that in this case also we are not going to use the punched tape or a tape reader, or punched card or a tape reader. So this is, I mean, in the case of CNC also we are going to we are eliminated the punched card or a tape reader. This is what the one of the advantage. If you use punched card or a tape reader, just now I said with you, they are more prone for errors, because due to repetitive uses, so those are going to spoil. So again, we need to prepare those tape readers, tapes, and as well as the punched cards to carry out the work. So this is the disadvantage of the NC machine, or with the punched card or the tapes. So tapes as well as the punched cards are eliminated in the case of DNC, as well as the CNC also. So DNC is basically the modification of the CNC. In the case of CNC, we are used one dedicated computer. Each NC machine tool is having one dedicated computer. Whereas in this case, so you are using a specific dedicated computer where all the programs are stored, and from there, all the NC machine tools are going to access the program. Okay, then cutter tool path data can also be stored as cutter path data. That means the main advantage of this DNC is that it is also going to store the cutter path data as a CL file or CLIF file. It is also one advantage. Then reports can be generated. In the case of CNC machine, we could not be able to generate the reports, but whereas here in the case of DNC, you can generate the reports which are extremely useful for the downstream applications, like shop floor management, like inventory, and as well as for the estimation and costing of the product, because estimation and costing also requires the machine time. So if you have all these data, definitely, which is extremely useful. Then computer can be remotely located, just because all the machines are kept in a network. So as we have seen that all these machine control units, then computer is connected in a network, are kept in a network, so that the host computer can be located far away from the machines. That is also one advantage of the DNC machine. So computer can more number of computers can access a single program. This feature is not possible in the case of CNC. So we have number of NC machines which are connected parallelly to the bulk memory, so that these machines can access a single program. A single program can be accessed by the multiple machines simultaneously. At a time, one program can be shared by different machines. This is the great feature of DNC. So this feature is not possible in the case of CNC. So CNC every machine is having every NC machine tool is having a dedicated computer specific to that, and from there the machine tool is going to access the programs. Okay, you cannot access because the data of the computer is not shared by the other machine, but here we are sharing the data of one computer where all the programs are shared. So this is what the advantage of the DNC. Let me move on to the next slide to discuss the comparison between NC, CNC and DNC machines. As you can see here, the difference between NC, CNC, DNC is that in the case of NC, we are going to use the punched cards as well as the tapes. Those are the inputs to the NC machine. To execute the work, we require punched cards and tapes, and also we require a tape reader to read the tape. But whereas in the case of CNC, so we don't require punched cards, we're eliminating punched cards. In the case of CNC, the programs are stored in the dedicated computer, which is specific to the NC machine tool. So from there, the NC machine tool is going to access the program, so that we are eliminating punched card and tape in the case of CNC, as well as the same thing will happen in the case of DNC also. In the case of DNC, the machines are going to access the data, access the program from the host computer or the mainframe computer, so where all the programs are stored. This is what the first difference between NC, CNC and DNC. Then when it comes to the to modify whenever you want to modify the program, if you use a punched card or if you use a tape, we cannot modify. But whereas in the case of if the program is written in the computer, so you can open that file, you can modify according to your requirement. Okay, you can create the new programs, you can edit the programs as per our requirement. This feature is not possible in the case of NC machine tools, because NC machine is a hardwired computer. Everything is hardwired, means you don't have any software to edit that. But whereas NC, CNC and DNC, everything is software, means we have everything in the form of the instructions will receive. The NC machine tool will receive the instructions in the form of soft or from the soft copy. Okay, then the third and important difference is that a tape reader is the part of the machine tool in the case of NC machine tool. Tape reader is the part of the machine control unit, but whereas here you don't need the tape reader at all in the case of CNC and DNC. But in the case of CNC, we have a computer, a specific computer connected to the CNC machine, NC machine. So microcontroller and microprocessor are going to read the program. Okay. Then in the case of DNC, it is having a large memory, allows the system to store more number of part programs, of course. Then the fourth difference is that the system has no memory storage, because it is in the case of NC, this is not having the software based, and computer is not at all connected to the NC machine, so there is no memory storage. You cannot store number of programs at that location. The storage is how many number of punched cards and how many tapes you can produce, that is only the memory. Okay, but whereas in the case of CNC, so we have a computer where you can store some programs. But when it comes to DNC, DNC is having a huge memory where all the programs can be stored, huge amount of data, huge number of programs can be stored. Then the fifth difference is that it cannot import CAD files. NC cannot. NC is not at all connected to the computer. If you don't have computer, you cannot import the CAD file. NC is a hardwired computer. So in the case of NC machine is not at all going to import the CAD file, because we don't have computer at that location. Then CNC can import the CAD files and convert them as the part program. This is also one feature of the CNC. But in the case of DNC, data can be processed using the software, and it can carry out the production planning and scheduling. So the reports generated by the DNC, as I said just now, the reports generated by DNC can be used for the downstream applications. It may be in the production planning, it may be in the scheduling. Then it comes to the, then when we come to the other difference, it cannot use the feedback system because it is a hardwired, it doesn't have the feedback system, but whereas CNC is having feedback system. So it can detect the movements of the tool as well as the table. If there is any difference between the movements of the according to the reference signal as well as the actual signal, if there is any difference between reference signal as well as the actual position, so if the system finds any difference, it creates an error, and that error will be corrected by the feedback system, and again one more signal will be generated. That signal is called the feedback signal. So again that feedback signal is sent to the machine tool to correct the positions of the tool as well as the table. So that happens in the case of CNC, but this is also possible, this type of feedback is also possible in the case of DNC. In both the cases feedback is possible, and in the case of NC, feedback is not possible. Then it comes to the uh, NC is not software, not at all going to use any software to write the programs. We have different softwares to write the programs like the FANUC, CNC, and HMT. Previously, we have HMT also we can write, and all those we have software programs to write the programs. But NC is not going to use because we are typing the part program. We are just by using a typewriter like device, we are going to code the program on the punched tape or the tape. But in the case of CNC and DNC, we are writing the programs in a software. So software driven means the computers are connected to the NC machine. Computers are used to store the programs as well as to edit the programs and to write the programs. So in many ways the computers are useful. So these two, CNC and DNC, is totally depending on the software uh, uh, in the computer, but whereas NC is not having computer. So this is the disadvantage of the NC and the advantage of NC and CNC. So these are all the differences between NC, CNC, and DNC. The main important difference is that this NC cannot import the CAD files, then these two can import the CAD files, and it can convert into the part programs. Simultaneously, DNC can process the data and it can generate the reports. And similarly, NC is not having memory storage, whereas CNC and NC is having memory storage to store the programs. Similarly, NC is not having feedback system. CNC and DNC is having feedback system. Then let me go back to see these some more differences once again. The basic difference between NC, CNC, and DNC is that NC works or depends on the tape. The input to the NC machine is tape or the punched card, whereas CNC and DNC is going to access the data from the computer. Then uh, uh, you cannot modify the programs in the case of NC, but whereas CNC, DNC, we can edit the programs, we can reload the new programs, we can delete the programs as and when you require. This is what happens in these three cases. In the case of CNC, NC is in the case of NC, tape reader is the integral part of uh, NC machine, NC control unit, whereas microcontrollers and microprocessors are used in CNC and DNC to read the program, because we have a computer in which you have the microprocessors, those are going to read the programs. This is what the difference between NC, CNC, and DNC. Let me go back what we have discussed. So in the next session, we will discuss CNC machines and their components. We will also discuss the different types of machining centers according to the axis of the tool. We have vertical machining center, horizontal machining center, then the universal machining center. We will discuss these three in detail in the next session. Then we will see the construction features of the machining center. We also try to specify CNC machining centers. Then we will discuss the CNC components and attachments. Some components and attachments we will discuss in our next session. Then let me go back what were discussed as of now. Comparison between NCCNC and DNC machines were discussed. Then advantages of DNC were discussed. Then were discussed the functions of DNC. In this case, in the case of functions of DNC, communication is a very, very important aspect, because everything is in the network. Communication is required between the central computer and machine tool, between the central computer and part programmer, between the central computer and bulk memory. Then the other function of the DNC is that it must be able to collect the data, process the data, and finally it should be able to generate the reports for the downstream applications, such as for the shop floor control, inventory control, and also for the other applications for in the case of management. Okay, then we'll go back to the other one. NC part program must be stored in a huge memory, so that it must have a huge memory to store NC programs. Okay, so then all the programs must be able to delete, must be able to edit as per the requirement. This is also we are expecting from the DNC. That means DNC must have this feature. I mean, to utilize DNC effectively, it must also have the active storage and the secondary storage. Then the first function is that DNC must be able to work without the punched card. Punched card is not at all used, because when we use the punched card, there are disadvantages. So one of the disadvantages is that these punched cards and tapes are going to, I mean, due to repetitive uses, those are going to spoil. And again, we need to prepare the new punched card or a new tape to carry out the work. So that is the one of the disadvantage of the punched card that we can eliminate in this case. This is also one function of the DNC. Then the other disadvantage is that when you use the punched card or a tape, you cannot modify during the work. While doing the work, you cannot change anything. So that is also one of the disadvantages of the. Once you write the punched card, you need to execute that. Otherwise, you have to throw that punched card away if you find any error in that. Just like a typewriter like device, we type everything. We will code the program on the card, so that will be fed into the machine tool to perform the actual work. Then we have discussed these functions. Then we are also discussed the different types of DNC systems, in which we have seen DNC system with satellite and DNC system without satellite. As I discussed just now, DNC system without satellite means, in this case, the main computer is connected to the main computer is connected to the NC machine tools, number of machine tools directly. So with the telecommunication links in between the main computer as well as the machine tools. So we have only the communication. So that is with the telecommunication. And that means we don't have any device between. Device means, of course, you have the machine control unit, but apart from that, the central computer is connected directly to the machine tools. Okay, so but whereas in the case of satellite DNC system, a mini computer is located between the central computer and the machine tool. So the function of this satellite mini computer is to get the program from the, or to download the program from the central computer. So after downloading, that program will be kept in the memory buffer. So from this memory buffer, the NC mission tool is going to access the program. So in between the central computer and the machine tool, if we place a mini satellite mini computer, so where the program will be stored in the temporary memory. So from there, the program will be accessed by the NC machine tool. So this type of system is called the DNC system with satellite computer. So next, we have discussed all these. Then we are also discussed the block diagram of DNC, in which you can find the basic working principle of the DNC system. As I said with you, you have one main computer or a host computer where all the programs are stored in the huge memory of this computer, and this computer is connected to the number of machine tools which are in the network. So are from the network cables. All these are in the network, hence this host computer can be located far away from the machines. That means it is not necessary to locate the host computer near to the NC machine tools. This can be located anywhere else because all these are in the network. We are already discussed the different types of network: LAN, WAN, MAN. You can use anything to connect all these. Then uh, go back and we have seen the basic components. It must have mainframe, central computer, bulk memory, telecommunication network, and machine tools. So these are the basic elements of the direct numerical control. Then, so this is as of now we have seen. Then in the next class we will discuss the CNC machines and their components, and we will discuss the different CNC machining centers like the vertical machining center, horizontal machining center, universal machining center. Then we will see the construction features of the CNC machining centers. Then we will also try to specify the CNC machining centers. Finally, we will see the CNC components and attachments, like the CNC computer is having number of attachments, like to store tools at some location, that is called the tool magazine. Magazine is a device where all the tools are located, from which the NC machine tool is going to access the tool. So to access the tool, so we have one more device. That is called the automatic tool changer, ATC. You can call it as an ATC. So ATC is going to pick the tool from the tool magazine as and when the operation on the CNC machine completes, because a component consists number of operations. So after completing one operation, the tool needs to be changed. Like after completing the turning operation, assume that we are performing the threading operation. The frequently the tools needs to be changed on the machine. So tool magazine is a device where all the tools are stored and located with a definite address. The ATC is going to pick up the required tool as per the instructions of the program, and that will be inserted in the machine tool. So that is the function of the ATC. Then we will see the different types of magazines, box type, circle type, then chain type. To have all those, we will see in the next class those also. Then we will try to specify the CNC machine. How do you specify a machine? It may be according to the capacity of the, when you go to the market, then how do you call for a pen? Pen, maybe it is a red pen, maybe it is a black pen, or maybe based on the price, you can also ask the seller for a 10 rupees pen, 10 rupees black pen, 10 rupees white pen, or 10 rupees red pen, or 5 rupees based on the cost, based on the color. So those are all the specifications of the pen. Pen is specified according to the color, according to the cost, or according to the price also, right? So all these will happens. We will discuss the CNC specifications, where in the case of CNC, you can recall all the concepts. Maybe it may be according to the drive system, or it may be according to the feedback system. then it may be according to the axis of the spindle, it may be according to the number of axes. So all those matters. So the specification of the CNC is also very, very important. That we will discuss in the next class. Then we will also discuss the construction features of every element in the CNC machining center. We all discuss, all this will be covered in the next session. So this is what, so thank you for this session. We'll meet you once again in the next session.